Welcome to the last of our tutorials. Today we're going to finish our banner and have a look at some new things, perhaps the gradient tool, something to do with opacity, and the rubber stamp tool, and we'll finish up our composition. First of all, let's get the third image from the web page, the Botanical Gardens Geneva one, and let's drag it into our document. Press enter to remove the lines, and over here in the layers, let's right click and go rasterize layer. If I want to only see one layer at a time, a quick way to do it is to hold down the Alt key and click on the eye next to the layer that we want to see. Let's try it again. Hold down the Alt and click that layer again, and then one more time. What I'd like to do now is I'd like to feather this side of this picture so that it sits in, or sort of looks like it merges in with the image to the left of it. To do that, we're going to have a look at this tool, which is the gradient tool. Before I do that, just be aware that this is the foreground and background default colors in Photoshop, and if they change it can have some adverse effects to things you're trying to do. If you just click on this little button here, it will restore it. This one reverses them, so I could reverse it there and then restore it. So just make sure that black is the foreground and white is the background color. Okay, so we're going to have a look at this tool, the gradient tool. When we come up to here, we'll see that there are settings for the gradient tool. The first one is foreground to background, and the second one is foreground to transparent. Let's click on that. Okay, so we want to add a foreground to transparent color, but the problem is if we just drag now, it doesn't apply it to the picture and it doesn't appear to work on those pixels. Control Z. So a couple of things we need to do. First of all, we need to select the picture. So let's come up to here and choose the magic wand tool. Click here, hold the shift, click here, and then Control Shift I inverses that selection and we get the selection we want. The next thing we need to know is that we need to add a mask to this layer. A mask is a viewport to the layer and allows you to apply certain processes to that layer. That's all I'll say about layer mask today. You can have a read of it if you wish. So down here next to the effects is the mask icon. Click on that and it adds a mask to that layer and the mask is selected. So with this tool selected here, if we drag, hold down the shift. If you hold down shift in most of the graphic products, it just constrains the line to be straight. If we hold down shift and drag just as I've done there and let the mouse button go, you'll see that it softens the actual pixels of the image from transparent into the image itself. And if we click here on our flower garden, we'll see the effect. Unclick. Now if we want to increase that, we just hold the shift down and maybe drag it a bit further in, and you can see that increases the transparency, and we put our picture back. And look, in fact that's something like I was hoping for. If we use the move tool, we can drag the image around to perhaps get a spot that might look a little better. It's up to you, and you can change that transparencies. It's just to sort of get the picture in like that there, where you can't see the edge and the pictures merge. Now there's many other ways many things you can do with this, but that's an example of the process. You just try it yourself for the best result for your circumstance. Okay, that's very good. Next up, I think we might have a look at the rubber stamp tool. So let's click on all the layers and bring them back. Aha! So this gives us an idea now that this particular layer is in front of our text, and that's no good. So we just drag the layer down. Now I've dragged it below the flower garden, and of course the transparency doesn't show. So we drag it up one, and now the transparency is back. Okay, so what I thought we might do here is, I wouldn't mind having some of these beautiful red flowers as a little feature in this corner. So I'm going to find that layer where the red flowers are, which I believe is here, hold down the Alt and click. Now what I want to do is I want to take some of these red flowers and just make a little corner of them here. There's a tool that's quite handy, and if you come down here you'll see it's called the rubber stamp tool. Well, clone stamp tool, sorry, in this application today. Okay, so we want to make sure that we've got the layer that we want selected, and of course that's the flower garden layer. And when you click the rubber stamp tool and you bring the mouse out, you'll see that it gives you a round circle for the icon. If you right click, you can change the size of the nib, and you want something around about that size. Now, yes, be careful when you click out because it'll say I haven't selected anything, so that's okay. So what we need to do is hold the Alt down and select the place from which we're going to pull the pixels. So I've held down the Alt and I've clicked. Hold down the Alt and click once. Now we come over to here and you can see it shows you that when you drag now, it's going to drag those pixels from over there. So what I'm suggesting is we drag them in. There, something like that. So what we've done is we've taken the pixels from the left and added them to the right. And that's sort of what I was going to do. Let's click on the Move tool to change back, and let's click on our layers and bring them back. Okay. One last thing that we could do is, with this layer selected, we could have a look, and you'll notice it's got an opacity. We could change the opacity and fade it. Now sometimes that looks good, sometimes not. Possibly not all that great in our circumstance here, but that's what it does. You could try it with text. So you can try it with maybe a little bit added to the text, might just fade it in a little bit into the background, and it might look okay. Yes, really. And I guess the other thing is blends, but I won't talk about them. So look, really for today, that's all I wanted to do. I might actually get my text and perhaps move it across like this. Get it halfway. Yeah. Okay. So look, there's many other things we could do, but that's just a set of skills that will allow you to get a functioning banner together very quickly, and I hope that's helpful to you. So let's save the file, File Save, and then let's go File, Save for Web. Now we have it at its original 970 by 250. What size? Well, if we want transparency, we must either use GIF, although you'll see GIF doesn't do a lot of the finer detail very well, so you can't choose GIF for this one, and plus we have photos. JPEG doesn't do transparency, which means that those transparent pixels wouldn't be transparent, they'll have a color. PNG 8 is does support transparency and is basically PNG's equivalent to GIF. You can see once again doesn't like those graduations of color. PNG 24, that's the one that I would suggest. That's the one that does everything quite well. Let's go save. We'll save it to a desktop and we'll call it Flower Shop Banner PNG. Just while we're at it, we might make a small copy to go, say, on a Facebook site or whatever. Let's go File, Save for Web, and with the lock on, see the lock is on, and you want to make sure the lock is on because we never want to change perspective. Let's make it the top width 200. Let's go Save, and this time we might put 200 here as the width. You can put times 52 if you want. It's probably a more complete way to do it. And save. So there's our files, our original banner and of course if we drag them out to a browser, we can see eventually well, perhaps not. It appears that the program that I'm using to record this is plays a bit of havoc with some of my programs. Okay, there's the small one and there's the large one, and you can see here that's white. Now when you put it into a web page, these transparent pixels here will work nicely. You see how having the transparent pixels gives you you know, you've got quite a strong block look here, but then a nice softer look to the right. It breaks up the design and just makes it look a little different. Because they're transparent, no matter what the background color of the page will be, you'll still get that same you know, visual interest in your design. Okay, so thank you very much. If you have been going through these tutorials, I hope they're of interest to someone, and I wish you well with your future and development.